Hey, thanks for stopping by for another episode of Appalachian Shine, the official podcast for the Foundation for Appalachian Advancement. I'm JC Swinegruber, and I want to thank those of you who are listening on your favorite podcast device, whether it's your smartphone or online. And thanks to those who are stopping by our YouTube channel to watch us here today. Uh, we have a really interesting guest today, a really important topic we're going to talk about as far as security here in Appalachia for folks that have online banking or small businesses. Before we jump into that, though, we have a new effort that we're doing here through the foundation, and we've updated our website at supportappalachia.org for what's called Operation Helping Hand. And for those who follow the podcast, you may remember back in December, we talked with Mary Beth Adkins from the local family crisis center. We learned a whole lot about the problems with homelessness here in Central Appalachia. And it really struck me, it just blew my mind how bad the issue was and just how little we see it. So I contacted the Family Crisis Center and a couple of local churches. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a donation drive to help the homeless here in southwestern Virginia. And we're going to be bringing those donations down to the Family Crisis Center. So what they're looking for basically is we're going to be taking clothing donations for males, females, unfortunately children. That was a request that we would have, that they needed more children's and clothing for teens. Also, undergarments. Make sure obviously some of those we want is new and clean, like socks and things like that. And probably other things that we wanted to be able to provide to them, like shaving cream, razors, soaps, things like that. That just general things that are needed every day by folks. So we are taking donations for clothing, and if you'd want to make a donation, want to maybe go through your closet, find a few things, maybe some clothes that your children don't fit into anymore, and you want to donate. Email me at jc@supportappalachia.org. In the memo field, just put clothing donation, and I'll get back with you. We're going to be taking these donations for a little while, then delivering them to the main center down in Norton, Virginia. And Mary Beth and her team, they're doing great work. We'll distribute those donations throughout all the communities that they serve here. And it's a very wide range. But today we're going to talk a little bit, this is a daunting topic. We have Joe Boyd from Infosec Check here to talk to us about cybersecurity, protecting your own personal identity. There's so many things that are going on in this world, Joe. Appreciate you coming on here to talk about this kind of a touchy subject. But since the pandemic happened, Joe, a lot of people started working from home. And I read online that since 2019, cybersecurity threats, viruses on people's computers, and malware and identity theft has been up tremendously since 2019, right before the pandemic hit. So those years have just been brutal. Joe, there's a whole lot to this topic. Kind of jump us in from the very beginning. What's the difference between a virus and malware and virus protection, malware protection? What's important for us to know?
Well, as you said, it's a big topic. It's a big playing field. So it's finding a point to where do you start when you got an elephant to eat? You don't start at the toenail.
Right.
So, virus and malware typically have been around for a very long time, back before I was young and such of the things. A virus, worm propagated, but basically a virus is just a sickness. It's a bad cold when it comes to a computer, and it comes from installing on your computer. You can get it through a program. Installing software from unknown trusted sources, clicking a link leading to a bad website that tries to run a program. Okay. So that's pretty much what it all falls under the umbrella of malware, which malware has a few more topics. Malware just means anything bad. And that can come through email attachments, websites. Whereas a virus is a smaller subset. It's a malicious program in itself.
Yeah, Joe, one of the things that really has alerted me here lately, and not just, well, the last year or so, is how many emails I get with links in there that I know are just either phishing, or I know it's a bad link. I might get something from a dummy Amazon account or a Verizon account or something like that. And not only am I getting emails like that with links in them, I'm also getting things on my phone, text messages to click on something, and you don't know the risk or security risk with that, or what kind of information you're giving up, or you're losing your computer or your phone or all your data. And it makes me nervous when I do a bulk email out to supporters of the foundation to let them know about maybe a new podcast that's up or something like that, that I put a link to the Podbean website in there. It makes me nervous to put that, not because it's a good site, but what are other people thinking when they see a link in their email too? How, what is, have there been any kind of, I guess, anything recent that's stuck out? I mean, regionally here, as far as breaches of security with companies, or?
Well, it goes on every day. To tell you, yes, there are some notable breaches that are in progress right now that affects everyone, but not an incident that just happened today or yesterday or last week. Cybersecurity is an ongoing thing. You have computers, you have cell phone, you have connected devices. You can have a doorbell camera at your door. All of these things are vectors that have to be protected. So yes, but back to what we're saying, yes, there are some notable events that have taken place here lately, and there are actions that people need to start understanding and try to learn. In fact, this whole topic about, what can I do? Well, first thing, don't panic, and it's hard to take that as a good answer. Don't panic. The second one that I usually tell people is, and unfortunately they say it to me all the time, I'm computer illiterate. And I'm like, if I was a bad guy, I would be the worst person in the world for you to say that to. So social media, if you've been out there on Facebook and you see all these things where people are playing these quizzes and things like that, and they're giving it personal information. I'm the grandson or granddaughter of this person, and you're giving out 3 or 4 generations of your family names. Those things are significant when it comes to your accounts, because usually you'll have it's still in existence today, even though it is coming to an end, where you have those reset questions. Eventually we'll migrate away from those things. The current trends in cybersecurity says we're going away from passwords. Whoever says we're going away from passwords just don't know the population willingness to learn the latest and greatest things. So it'll be years before we're going away from passwords.
Will it be going to something like facial recognition or thumbprint ID, something like that?
There's a lot of talk around. So facial recognition and passwords, thumbprints, and things like that are already in existence. In fact, I'm a candidate for a doctorate, and I've had to write several papers on all the different factors of authentication, and those various things have already been in existence, and we're just going away from those that are not working so well. Facial recognition being a problem with who has a picture of my face now, so you got a lot of legal issues about those things. And I don't know, you've noticed a time or two as we've talked, I've picked up a beard and I'm getting a little bit older, got a few extra wrinkles. Those things depends on which kind of camera and facial recognition. There's a variety of quality of equipment. So a lot of implications around what the future holds. So passwordless technology is out there today. It's still kind of new. It'll send you an email. Well, what happens if your email gets compromised? So
yeah, that happens to a lot of people. I don't know how many emails I've gotten over the last handful of years, like, hey, don't email me at this address anymore. It's been hacked. If you get anything from it, it's not me. Don't click on anything. And that happens almost daily on Facebook, or people's accounts get hacked on Facebook, and or a new account will get opened up with somebody's picture, and it's not them. They're going around friending everybody. And I always wondered, well, if you're not, what's the point of that? I always wondered, what's the point of stealing someone's ID on social media, because it's just social media. It's annoying, but there are darker corners of the web, and I guess some people, they use maybe the store on Facebook, where they shop on certain things on there, buy on certain things.
Yeah.
So whatever Facebook has, I guess anybody can tap into, right? Even if you have a credit card on there.
Sometimes that is the case, but generally what you have with the I've been hacked on Facebook, those may be what I call drone stormtroopers. They're out there just actually scouting for information and who they can get from. And they're using somebody's trust based upon their friends list. So number one, go in into your security settings and fix it so somebody can't look at your friends list. Turn that off. It may be nice, but there's certain things, there should be a certain level of, we don't make this readily public. Somebody actually cloned me one time, and the very first person that they messaged, they were able to message someone from one of my group affiliations. They came in from another classmate actually, and they were able to see me. They cloned me. They sent a message to another classmate who immediately recognized, this is not Joe. So
yeah,
it was just the way they asked the question, comes out the door.
yeah.
Have you seen the latest grant? Oh my goodness, really, people?
Yeah, Joe, something happened to me one time. I want to mention this because it can happen to anybody. I have a good friend, who's actually had her identity stolen twice. And that has been and she doesn't do anything online anymore. And I don't blame her, but one thing that happened to me one time is I got a text message from Verizon. This was maybe 4 years ago. Got a text message from Verizon thanking me for my purchase of a new phone. And it was a very expensive phone and some other things that were bought through Verizon. And then my next email or text message was verifying that I did my change of address.
Oh wow.
Yeah, scary. So immediately I log in, and I see that a $700 some worth had been bought on my dime and was shipped to a place in Miami. Okay, so I caught it right as it happened. So I immediately called Verizon, and they stopped this. And then I have to go back in and change my password. But folks, I can't stress how nervous I got at that point, Joe, and just what a slap in the face it was to realize at that point, hey, you know what? These passwords that we have, they do matter. Don't pick something easy. Secret 111 is not a good password, and I deleted that from everything at that point. And so now my passwords, Joe, and this is from a previous conversation with you, I went back and I changed every password I have to really weird things that make no sense. I'm not using a pet's name. I'm not using my favorite sports team. Nothing. So how important is a password? And what is that the easiest way people get into hacking into your business or your personal life or your bank?
Actually, it is one of the easiest attack vectors. And attack vector is just being they're standing from here and they can attack you from there. You're speaking about passwords. One of the number one most breached passwords, and I wish I had my statistics because this is part of research. You're supposed to be able to show your work. But seriously, the number one hacked password is like password 123. Just something totally off the wall. And then password 12 being number two, password 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, there's a long list. You can honestly, you can Google the most common breach passwords. You'll get a laugh out of it. People are just doing across the top of the keyboard, QWERTY1 or something like that. They're just, the keyboard, QWERTY is just laid across the top of the keyboard. Those are still the most common passwords. And then you get into the pets' names and things like that. Dictionary, simple words, we call them dictionary, use of dictionary attack, where just common words and simple number letters and all that are used. So
Yeah.
the importance of picking a good password, some of the latest trends, is to actually pick a phrase that's important or significant to you. And I'm not going to make up a very good one here when I say this, but let's say Mary had a little chicken, something that you can kind of combination put together yourself that has some significance to you. And, put a symbol or a capital in there, but fix it so it's important to you. And, in some way, there's a lot of research around making passwords too complicated is what makes people finally get frustrated and say, oh, to heck with it. I'm just going to do this and just take my chances. So it's sort of like going to the gym. You got to get in the process of a habit and a routine and actually work with it. I try to relate this to a bicycle. You just didn't get on the bicycle and start riding the first day.
Okay.
You got to practice.
And that makes sense, Joe, because whether you own a small business around here and you want to protect that business and your identity, or if you're just somebody like me that'll log in and check your bank account or pay bills online, this is pretty vital. Because I'm not going to mention the name of the business, but there was a bank here in the region that had a major breach recently. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And a lot of information. So it can happen to anybody. If it can happen to you, and then it can happen to a bank that probably spends a fair amount of money and time, I would imagine, on cybersecurity. It can happen to just about anybody.
The sad thing is you can spend $1 million protecting, but it only takes a 10-cent attack to get through.
Yeah.
So that you have the weakest link in the process and something that you may not be looking for. And not even speaking locally, but I have had my identity stolen on several occasions that come from prior incidents that are very common and in the news. Half of the United States suffered from one of the major credit bureaus.
Equifax, was it?
Yes, the names, a lot of things got published and released. Yeah. And, so where do we go from here when half of the country has had their information published out there? What people don't understand is you probably give out more information on Facebook and not even thinking and to be concerned with. I see these things on Facebook all the time. Look, quit giving out that very strategic information that you feel is harmless. Like, what's your favorite food? I saw 4 people this morning and say, I do not eat this. Well, you just told me 15 other things that you do eat.
One thing I notice that people will have their phones attached to their Facebook account. So when they go into a local business, I will know if you know where they live. And I know somebody was terrible doing this. I knew where they lived. So if you knew where that person lived at, and you knew they were at some restaurant over in, say, Bristol, Tennessee, and you knew how long it takes a couple hours, you're going to be there because it was a little nicer, upscale place, or somewhere in Johnson City, it's going to take them at least 45 minutes to get back home. If they're gone in the evening, that's a perfect time to watch somebody go rob their house. It's
checking in somewhere is not a good thing sometimes. You just don't want to let, unless you got security systems going on at home, and that's another attack vector. Everybody's got a doorbell camera. Well, excuse me, not everybody has a doorbell camera, but it's a pretty popular thing right now.
Yeah, it's growingly popular.
Big issue about those things is making a complicated password or having security layers on your doorbell camera. Baby monitor cameras, people using default passwords. No, that's got to be fixed. You need to have strong passwords and,
So this is this is a topic like for literally for anyone listening to this show or watching on YouTube that they need to pay attention to. I've noticed like since the pandemic, a lot of people work from home. And that's when I think we've seen a lot of not just identity theft, but like malware attacks and things like that going to people's personal computers because they were working from home. And if they could tap into the corporate computer that way, it's very scary, but I wanted to ask, so with your company, Infosec Check, and people can find that online. You have a great website here. Where do you fit in and how do you help people, small businesses, for example, or organizations like ours here at the foundation, bolster their defenses to make sure that one, customer data don't get out there, and two, that they're not attacked personally and just lose access to their own equipment, machines, their own phones.
So one of the things that I have started to do, and I'm in some academic research, so my work, I'm trying to figure out how to maximize it so I can help more people if I can. Small businesses tend to get left out in the major corporate security world because I've worked with some of the larger companies, and they're looking for people that have budgets to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on security. So what happens with you or I, that may have, $30 for a budget or $50 for a budget, or
Walmart can afford this, but people who own a local family restaurant, they can't.
Yeah. So I've been in the IT telecom world for a long time, and I was actually trying to help a client or client go through some PCI credit card compliance. They move a rather large sum of money, with credit card transactions. And, it's a little bit bigger on the compliance scale for all these different things. If you process credit cards, you are responsible for some level of security on your information. PCI DSS, which means Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards, that's a self-regulating industry. If you take credit cards, you have agreed to pay the fines and penalties if you lose somebody's information by accepting credit cards. So they call it PCI compliance. So what can the small business do? You really, first thing you got to do is, first and foremost, what Infosec Check does is some level of awareness and training program. So I'm rolling out podcasts. Of course, they are subscription and donation. When it comes to compliance, I can't, run continuous content because this stuff does cost me money to produce, but I am working toward what can the small business owner do and trying to come up with, I guess, so to speak, a gym membership, $10 or $20 of useful information, whether it's on a monthly basis or something like that. I call it the extermination plan. You call the exterminator in, it might cost you $30, $40 a month or something like that. You might need a quarterly plan. Ultimately, you're going to have to get out of the mindset, I don't need to spend on security and I've got antivirus and that's enough. Mm-hmm. What you really have to do is understand, I'm not attacking your antivirus. I'm attacking you if I'm a bad guy. And I'm going to figure out how to defeat you or defeat your systems of around things, which, may not necessarily be that antivirus software. And definitely looking at, the larger corporates that say they have a firewall and they're good. I'm not going to take on the firewall. I'm going to breach your insider, your employees or something like that, get them to click on something, send them a phish, send them a smish or a voicemail, get them to go to a website. And I've gotten around the high dollar security items that they may have. So really it comes down to behaviors. What's your password hygiene? Perhaps we need to have a small training class on how to develop a good password. What's the latest trends for passwords or authentication, which passwords are for authentication. What's the latest in programs to use? One program I use is called LastPass. There's a free version of it out there. I actually pay for this version, and I can affiliate link them, and which, in support of the foundation, I'll help you with that link, and we can actually set up some password management software where people could sign up on and get the free plans. And if they wanted to integrate that in, what I found by just telling people, hey, try out this software, they go pay for it and they get frustrated because they don't use it. Well, do you have an IT training person to help you learn how to implement it? So that's what I'm trying to bring out on Infosec Check. I'm going to check to see if you're doing the process, because it's not like a Band-Aid that you can put on it and forget about it. Somebody's got to check it. Somebody's got to understand security, the process, and the frameworks.
So all the protection that all these companies on Wall Street may have, you're here local trying to bring the same thing down to Main Street, to mom and pop and individuals that have a vested interest in protecting their identity, security, equipment. So if so it's affordable too, right? So that's the thing. It's because you could have, like you said, quarterly or monthly, these types of checks with people.
Sure.
If somebody wanted to give you a call, how do they get in touch with you?
I probably got a dozen phone numbers. Anybody can get a hold of me at. So my
Okay.
primary number is simply 855-624-6262. I've had that number for many years. That one's simply my corporate name's Mainboard, and that means 855 Mainboard.
Okay. So now infoseccheck.com, and let me spell that for people. It's INFOSECCHECK.com. I guess that's short for information and security.
Information. Yeah. That's a military term, actually. And somebody, actually a marketing consultant, told me, said, I don't know what InfoSec is. You need to put the word cybersecurity up there. And I said, most people can't spell cybersecurity.
But so you have an 888 number up on there. There's a way to contact through the website too.
And just give you a hint there, that 888 number, in the world of UCAS, which is Unified Communications as a Service, I work with a lot of telephone companies and things like that. That's one of my hosted UCAS providers that is very conscientious about HIPAA compliance. So without naming that particular company, or if I should, but I help people get set up on a UCAS provider, Unified Communications as a Service. So what I do in a sense of marketing, when I want someone to know that they're coming to me from Infosec Check, I've got a designated phone number, and it's really a very nominal charge to have another number and per minute plan.
Yeah.
So those are good things to take into consideration. I have a domain out there called Always Think Security, but hey, don't forget marketing. If you're in business, you're out there to get business, right? You don't want people to think you're so scared of business that you're shut down and locked up. Like even saying your name out in public. As far as this, I don't want people to know my company name. Well, hey, you can search the web and find me.
So local folks and local business owners can take advantage of your services, because you're local right here. You're in Hayside. Mm-hmm. So you're over in Dickinson County.
Yes, sir.
Here in southwestern Virginia. So yeah, if you're going to use these services, you might as well go to someone local that's had a long background and experience in it. So Joe, we really
good to have somebody to put on the running shoes that you can go running with together, or go to the gym together or something like that. Sometimes it's got to be on a professional level of understanding, hey, I'm going to be telling you to push on the bar that's a little bit heavier than you want to lift, when I say, hey, you got to have a cybersecurity budget. I want to quickly go back to the one thing you said, all the incidents arose and how cybersecurity breaches have gone up since 2019. And that's because people went into their home and worked, and the corporate security environment didn't go with them. So you had this massive companies letting people take laptops home. They didn't have a plan or a strategy for letting people get into the corporate networks, take the email outside the protected network, and that's what you had happen.
Yeah. I know a lot of people that even in my my 9 to 5 in the investment advisor business that went home to work and from major corporations, and they just use the equipment they have at home, or they might have bought them a new computer and sent them there, and they probably have some protections on it. But you're right, it's all what you do there, and clicking on the wrong thing can make
Typical
cost.
home router from Best Buy, Walmart, or something like that for your home internet connection is simply just not enough. It's enough to get you on the internet, but it doesn't have. And talking about equipment there, one of the first questions I ask anybody when they have compliance on the line is, do you have a firewall? And I relate a firewall to the TSA agent at the airport. I try to do that.
Yeah.
Somebody has to inspect the packets and check the luggage. Somebody has to inspect the passengers. So, you get into a lot of different things with this real expensive equipment when you get into firewalls. But when you have the typical, basic router, I mean, you can turn on what they call stateful packet inspection. And that's technical jargon, blah, blah. But, it's just looking for crazy things that's out of bounds. It's not really opening up a suitcase or doing a proper pat down. So, without putting all the details and scaring people off with the technical terms.
Well, Joe, I appreciate you bringing a lot of this to light. And you hopefully, if you're listening out there, if you need any kind of, even just a consultation, make sure you touch base with Joe Boyd. Is there anything before we wrap up today that we need to point out to people that they should know?
I made some quick notes, and this is stuff that I've experienced today already that really involves cybersecurity. And this is habits to rethink. Number one, you need to understand public Wi-Fi is not free if there's a hacker out there. So don't just go jump on public Wi-Fi. There's a little bit more advanced studies to getting on public Wi-Fi that you need to do, because you could be jumping into the pit of despair. This is the best way I know to say it. We may have our phone set to auto connect and things like that. In fact, I did too, a time or two. When I look down and I see my phone's on Wi-Fi, I go, wait a minute, how did that happen? I thought I had protections in place, and usually it's some kind of an update or something like that. So public Wi-Fi's need to be rethought very critically. Second thing for people to do, don't ever loan your phone to somebody, okay? Don't do it. Stop. No. Not only is it bad hygiene around COVID time, just, they can easily type in a few things and boom, they've got a lot of information about you.
Yeah.
So, and, be cautious at computer kiosks as well. If you don't know how to clean cookies and erase browser history, like if you go to a hotel to check your airport status, check your email or something like that, I just say, no, look, if you don't know how to properly clean up and empty the caches, don't do it.
Yeah, one thing that I've made sure of where I've traveled a good bit to Frankfurt, where my office is, and back, and I'll stay in hotels, I do not use the hotel Wi-Fi. I make sure I have enough space on my system to, sporadically use the internet as I need to. I don't jump on any kind of hotel Wi-Fi. And I think a lot of people do that. As soon as they get logged in, or as soon as they get checked in, they open their laptop, plug it up to the desk, and boom, off they go.
Well, to offer, not to be contradictory there, I will use certain Wi-Fi's. I just make sure, that I'm on the right one. But I have connectivity software. Basically, everybody needs to look into a VPN type software. Now, there's a lot of misconception around VPN, virtual private network. And that this is something I explain on my podcast. So, there are cases where public Wi-Fi can be, you just need to know how to use it. It's sort of like, and I'll relate this one over, I said the bicycle, don't jump on a motorcycle if you've never ridden a motorcycle before. So that I won't put that public Wi-Fi's over in that category. Yes, it can be good. Number one, you need to make sure it's safe. It doesn't have flat tires and the wheels aren't bent. So let me back up. Don't fear from it, but until you understand it, you got to approach it. You got to use it.
Okay, yeah. After the Verizon incident, I approach everything like that with fear.
Indeed, that's true. When you see anything funny on those Wi-Fi hotspots, just look, it's not going to hurt you. Just say, no, it's not that important. It can wait.
Yeah. Well, Joe, this is all good information. Again, it's infoseccheck.com. Make sure you touch base with Joe. Go check out the website, and if you have any questions, they can email you through the website. They have the phone number right there as well. So yeah, hopefully, Joe, people will take this issue a lot more seriously, because when we hear it happens at a local bank that's pretty good size and compromises client accounts, it's kind of a scary thing.
Yeah,
it can something terrible can happen to all of us at that point. So.
Yes, sir. Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Joe. We'll have you back sometime. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of Appalachian Shine. Make sure you jump on the website, supportappalachia.org, and follow us there. You can follow us on Facebook, and the podcast, if you can listen to it on your smartphone at any of your favorite podcasting sites. And we're online at podbean.com as well. So thanks, everyone, and we will see you down the road.